What's up guys, it is me, Mad Samurai 84, here for another edition of PS Plus Plays. This is September's edition. We have 3 new games to be playing. We've got 2 PS4 games, we've got 1 PS4, PS5 game. And yeah, let's hope this month is slightly better. You know, the past months have been, let's just say, mid at best. You know, it's only been probably maybe 1 game that kind of saves the month from being absolutely dire. And yeah, well, I've played through the games quite a bit. What I do now is, you know, I play through the games. I try to play it through it as like a nice decent chunk. It can be anything from 2 to 8 hours. It depends how much the game grips me in a way, and I try to kind of give a little spiel, my final thoughts of what I've thought of each one just from the time I've played with it. You know, you're gonna get more from a game you've played more hours on, but not necessarily. I've literally tried to play each game, I think, a minimum of 3 to 4 hours each. This month, I think about 4 hours I think I've put into each one, and yeah. So I'm going to give my final thoughts, and then after that I will give my thumb scores. I will give a thumb score if I think it's a good game, and then I'll give a thumb score whether I think it's a good offering, and then we'll kind of talk about the look at the Metacritic, even though the Metacritic can be a little load of BS, but we'll have a look at it just to see what critics gave it and what users gave it as well. Anyway, let's jump into the first game of the month and see how it plays out. Now, our first title for September is Black Desert, the Traveller Edition, which I assume is just some extra little kind of crystals here and there. I had some stuff given to me, and I was like, oh, okay, assume that's it. So, if you don't know what Black Desert is, it's an online MMO RPG. This is that one game that has annoyed me for so long, appearing on ads on YouTube for years. Now I get to see what it's all about. It came out on the PS4 in August 2019, but it originally started back in 2014 on the PC. And yeah, I've sort of seen it a few years ago. I haven't seen it for a while now, but I saw adverts and I was just like, "What is this game? I've never heard of it." But it was before it kind of came across to the PS4, and you know what? I've never played it because it's never been my cup of tea. But I have to say, this is a buggy and ugly game. And that is what it's all about, really. This is what it's all about. You know, with the constant popping in and out of textures and objects, a lot just makes you wonder if the devs are still even working to improve the game, because it just seems so kind of all over the place. It's rather ugly, really. All the textures they've kind of used, they've put lots of shine in it. It's just like, what is going on here? It's not a pretty game, really. It feels like I'm playing a mid-level PS3 game on the graphics wise, but I do have to say, there are some little nice areas of the game, you know, with some really great, you know, character design, especially with yours, you know, and there are some rather kind of wrong uns and stuff, but the main character and stuff are all quite nicely designed. They are, and also talking about kind of the graphics, when you go to the start screen, it's such a low, horrible res video they have playing. It's like, why would you put something like that on your start screen? I don't get it. But the saving grace for this game is probably about the controls. They are simple and easy to get used to in a way, with a different amount of different attacks for you to learn. Though nothing feels like you are pulling off some great combo, but really performing separate actions from one another. And then you start walking around, and it makes you wonder, like, what is up with the movement animations? Because it just seems off. It kind of just doesn't. It just doesn't feel right. It's just I don't know how to describe it, but something does not feel right when you are moving around at all. It feels completely wrong, and I don't get it. But you know, they're also when you go into the many options that you see on the screen, and then you see why you see so many options, and then you actually enter the options screen, and that's when you consider, you know, life choices you've made of why you're here. Really, you really do wonder. You're like, oh, okay. Well, I have to admit, I have never really got into playing MMOs, RPGs, and I've been slightly tempted by probably Final Fantasy 14, but then I realise that I have kids and I work, and I don't really want to invest lots of time on top what I'm currently playing. So no, maybe the next Final Fantasy MMO, whenever that happens, I might have cleared my back catalogue. You know, who knows? Not my back catalogue, my backlog. I might have cleared it, and you know, I might have started it. You know, probably the last MMO I tried and played a little bit was the Dungeons and Dragons Neverwinter, which I did play that for a little bit, and it was fun, although it got a little bit repetitive. Which is always my worry with MMOs, really. Is that you know there's a bunch of repetitive quests with no end in sight until you hit that delete button. So far, Black Desert has felt like that. I've been just doing nothing really. That's what it's felt like. It hasn't felt like I've been doing anything. It doesn't feel like I've tried to progress, and it just doesn't feel like I'm getting anywhere. And I don't get it. But I don't see this as a game. I don't see myself carrying on. Maybe I'll pay a little bit more just to see, and you know, and if the plat trophy was quickish to attain, I would. But looking at the online games, it says it will take 550 hours. So that's a plat I will never have in my life. If you play this and like this, you know what, I'm happy for you. But with all the bugs and ugliness, I couldn't recommend this game to anyone to play. Really, I just couldn't. And when you look at its Metacritic, it sits at a 61. I am actually surprised it's at a 61. I'm actually flabbergasted that it's at a 61. And when you look at its user score, it sits at a 3.8, which, you know what? I see that because it still plays and you can get some enjoyment, but you know, overall as an experience, probably MMO wise, this is not the kind of best to be playing on a PS4. Yeah, I don't know what the experience is like on Xbox or PC. You know, I assume PC is probably the best platform to play it, but I just don't see why the 61. I haven't had a look at the individual ones, the reviews, but because 61 just seems like giving this game like a 10 out of 10 in a way. So don't get it. But anyway, thumb score time. Thumb scores. What are we going to go with? Well, for the game score, well, it's ugly. It's ugly. It's ugly. And it's buggy. That's all it has to say. Yeah, you can get some enjoyment out of it because it is easy to kind of just jump in and play with it. It's not like, oh, what button does this? You know, there are a few different combo things for you to learn to attack, but that's actually quite good because when you are battling, they kind of appear on there. So you're like, oh, okay, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. So you can get some enjoyment out of it. So I'm going to go with a game score of a quarter of a thumb up because it's playable to some extent, but it's not a great experience. If you want to play an MMO, I feel like you should probably be on the PlayStation anyway. You should probably be playing Final Fantasy 14. I think never played it, but it's highly regarded. The nice thing that there was still a lot of people playing it. Well, that's probably a good thing. Let's move on to my offering score. What do I give it? Well, it is a 4-year-old MMO that is ugly and buggy, and they could have done a whole lot better with it. So I'm going to give a thumb score of all the way pointed down. It's like a nothing, really. So thumbs down for me. Thumbs down with a stinky poo on my thumb. That's what it is. I can't recommend it. It's not a good offering. I don't know why. Obviously, this must have been on the cheap catalog to give us for free. Don't do it again, Sony. Do better.
Now, our second title for September is Generation Zero. This came out in March 2019, and it's a self-published game by Avalanche Studios under like a sub-brand, System Reaction, which I didn't really. I knew it was Avalanche had something to do with it, but I didn't actually really realise it was under a sub-brand, and they really paid attention. Now, I kind of, I think Generation Zero is one of those games that I have to say at the start that released in a mess and should have never come out until it was like kind of ready. But unfortunately, they've come along and they've added more and they've put TLC in it and they fixed a lot. They have. It was a game that I know that was not in a good state when it first came out, and I actually do own this game digitally. I think it was going for cheap in 2020 because I was like, I saw it and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I know it didn't get good reviews, but I was like really interested in it because I was personally drew to it because it was the setting was like the late 80s, like in Sweden, and I live in Sweden, so I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm interested in this game. I'm interested in it, and like I found it quite nice that they've everything is like more or less spoken in Swedish. They haven't changed it to be spoken in English. So it's all like mainly subtitled. But I have to say, because I played it for a little bit when I first got it, and then I kind of went off, just played other stuff. And now when I've kind of rebooted this game to play it again for this video, it was doing some downloading, and it was like, oh, just downloading a patch. I'm like, okay. So I just played on, was having fun. I'm like, okay. When I came back to it after the patch had installed, I noticed like a lot of things popping in and out of the screen, and I'm more some while playing on the PS5. I'm not sure if this is an issue or it's on the PS4 or it's just bad PS5 optimization, but I would just say it's probably on both. But yeah, they've done something, and there's a lot of issues. Kind of buggy. It's very buggy. Kind of more. So the graphics really just textures and objects kind of just popping in and out, and just and just your turn, and not everything would have loaded up properly, and then you kind of maybe move forward like a centimeter, and then it goes pop. It pops up, and it's like it's a bit annoying, and it's not everywhere. It's just in some spots I've noticed, in which it wasn't doing that before this patch installed. So it's like, but as I didn't play this when it was first released, it's hard to kind of say where it came from to where it is now. But now it is like, it is a quite funnish game. As I said, there are quite a few bugs still around, more on the graphical side, but hopefully they get kind of sorted out. And if you don't like this game, basically you've just kind of plopped on this island, and it's a made-up island in Sweden. Because I was like, oh, is this a real place? Let me have a look. It's a fictional place. Basically, there's all these robots that have basically taken over, really, and all the local inhabitants either dead on the floor or just gone. So it's like, okay. But the robots in this game look awesome. They've been designed really, really well. On the control front, I have to say I've noticed this more since the patch install, that it feels a little bit sensitive when just aiming, but knocking down the sensitivity in the settings to kind of match your preference does the job. But it was a bit like, oh god, this just kind of feels like all over the place using a controller. The gunplay is okay, but probably could do with some refining and tweaking, as it's not great and it's far from it. But they could make it a bit more on par with some other shooters. But it's still rather enjoyable. You do have some transport options. I think you can use cars, but I have just have a bicycle, and they control like garbage, and they need fixing. As I would just rather my trip take longer on foot than use one of those. It just feels like you're actually trying to move a tank. It's just like I don't even bother with the bikes anymore. It's just too much of a pain in the backside. The menu system is somewhat very simple and easy to navigate, and is quite nice. And you're given quite a vast map to explore. It's actually quite big. When you kind of learn, you're like, oh, okay, it's actually quite a bit of size, really. But what I will have to say negatively is that, yeah, you're on a set of islands where everyone, has either been killed or looks like they have been disappeared. I've come across one NPC so far. Uh, it would be better to come across some other sort of survivors, people hiding out, even during some sort of side mission where even though they all die, that might be the case. I don't know, but so far I've kind of gone round. I've gone into all these like abandoned houses, and there's no one there, really, no one. But I do like this game, and I feel like it can be probably best be enjoyed with a friend. Though I'm playing it solo, and I'm still actually having quite a lot of fun. Really, I'm still liking it. I hope they look at this a bit more long term and fix things and add more things. They've kind of continued to add DLC along the way. Heck, why not look at doing a sequel somewhere else in Sweden that is even a real place on the mainland? That might be interesting. It might. It might. But when you look at its Metacritic, uh, it sits at a 45. Very not good. Not a good score. And its user score sits at a 5.9. I don't think this is really very well representative of the current version of this game, which is poor. I would kind of give it a bit more kind of that upper 60 kind of mark, maybe ish. Really low 70s if I'm really trying to grab at something. But yeah, that's the thing. As I said, this game supposedly wasn't released in a good condition. I remember hearing about it, going, "Oh God, that's not good." And then when I saw it going cheap, I was like, "Ah, you know what? I'm interested about the concept and its setting, even if it's rubbish." It was only a little bit of money. Well, it wasn't a little bit, but it was fairly discounted. It was a very decent enough price for me to go, yeah, all right, I'll get it digitally. But yeah, bit of a shocker on that Metacritic score. It'd be interesting to know if the game was reviewed, what the scores would be with those critics now. As they've put it so low, 45, not great. Playable, but has like a lot of gameplay and mechanical issues, and it did have that, and it kind of does have some kind of mechanical issues with the patches I've just downloaded, really, where it's kind of a little bit buggy, but it's not like it doesn't ruin your gameplay, really. It doesn't ruin the game, it doesn't. But anyway, my thumb scores, what would I give Generation Zero for my thumb scores? Well, I think for my game score, I'll go with a thumb in the middle. I think it's like it's a half decent game. It's like a 6.5 or so out of 10, something like that for me, really. As an offering score, Well, I think this is because this has had a bit of work done to it and it's in a much better place. I feel like this is actually quite a good offering. It is about, a bit over 4 years old, but I think this is a good game for them to give us where a lot of people have probably not really seen it or it's been overlooked in a way. I was going to go with a thumb in the middle, but I've kind of changed my mind thinking, oh, this is actually quite a good offering for, you know, people to jump on board with it. So I've gone with an offering score of a 3/4 of a thumb up. I'm probably like up in the clouds with the fairies and stuff by giving it that, but I kind of do think it's actually a good offering for people who have just never played it because it actually is a half decent game. Really, it's actually quite. I'm actually quite having a bit of fun, and I will try kind of play a bit more, get through, and I guess just clear the game. Really, would be nice to just clear it, play it. Not going to 100% it. Don't think I'll go for the platinum, but I'll play through the story. Maybe play even one of my friends because it was one of my friends who kind of said, "Oh yeah, get this. It's actually not too bad, really, and it's on sale. Get it, and we'll play it together." And we played it for a little bit together, but yeah, not bad. Game score, thumb in the middle. Offering score, 3/4 thumb up. Now, on to our last game for September. We have got the reboot of Saints Row, which came out last year in August 2022. So literally just a little bit over a year old. Now, this was, yeah, they've, well, first of all, this is the game that recently people say killed a studio. So rest in peace, Violation. 1993 to 2023. I've been there from the start of the series, back on the Xbox 360 days where it was, and I think it's still only on there on console wise, where this was you laughed at as the poor, it was laughed at as the poor man's GTA, really, and it was rightly so, but it was still quite enjoyable, and it had Samuel L. Jackson doing the voice. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly. Was it Samuel L. Jackson or was it Lawrence Fishburne? It's one of the two. Getting confused. I'm thinking it was Sammy J. I'm pretty sure. But they evolved into their own from sequel to sequel, and then people just stopped really saying that. Really, that it was the poor man's GTA because they kind of just evolved into their own thing. Also, you have to give a shout out to the Red Faction series. Love it. Wish there was more. Even a remake of the first one would be nice. Come on, guys. Come on. Come on. Whoever you are, THQ, Embracer Group, well, whoever's doing it, Deep Silver, Deep Down, or whatever you're doing. But yeah, sad about that dev team because they've did some good games even before that. They have got some other stuff on like that was on like PS1 and all that stuff. So yeah, very very sad. But now they decided to reboot the series since Saints Row 4, which is probably it's probably for the best, maybe, as it was going crazy with the space travel, aliens, and more. So they probably just had to probably bring it down again, to technically start again. Seemed like probably like the thing to do, really. Why not? But I don't think we really, they really had in mind that they were going to take us out of like Stillwater and put us into a whole different city. I was like, oh, okay. So you're just like, what? Just Stillwater is no more? I don't know. Maybe, new lease of life, start a new city. I'm not hating the decision to do that, but I'm still not quite loving it. But firstly, off the bat, I have to say, I think the default characters they give you are, let's put it kindly, they're trash and dumb, but at least you can change things. Really, they just look trash. Because like, oh, okay, here's one that probably looks alright, all the rest are just like garbage. And then once you've done that, the opening scene starts, and then you double check that you're playing a PS5 game and not an early life cycle PS4 game, maybe late PS3, because it's not that pretty of a game. But the series was never like the prettiest of things. But you would expect something probably a little bit more than what's being presented, really. It probably doesn't look far off from the original release of probably Saints Row 4. Let's put it that way. On the PS3. Maybe. Not even the remastered. Yeah, let's go with the remastered one. Just benefit of the doubt, you know. But then you get into your first mission, and then you have to double check that you're not playing a PS3 game, as the controls kind of controls like a Saints Row 2 of like 2008, you know. Joke, wasn't even. I don't think Saints Row 2 was even on the PS3. I don't think it might have been. I don't think it was. I think it was still Xbox 360. Yeah. But it's not that old, but it just feels slightly dated with the movement, and it doesn't feel like right where you can. I can't really put my finger on it, but it just doesn't feel like modern. Like some of the modern games, it flows wonderfully. You will also encounter plenty of bugs where cars will appear, disappear into thin air, over things in the world. Just you know, there's just gonna be lots of other things that are you'll just see just appear and disappear. Really, you know, you might go into walls, might go into the floor, but yeah, I did have an excellent bug where my character was invisible during a cutscene. Really, so which was quite hilarious. He basically just kind of opened the door, started talking. You're like, oh, no one's there. And they start giving him like a cup of coffee or whatever it may be. And it's just a floating cup that's just being drunk by nobody. A kind of the invisible man of some sort. You know, while hilarious to see, but as I used to work in QA, it makes me wonder, how is this bug still in it? Really, why has this? Have they not? Has this bug not been? Did this bug not come across in QA at some point? I don't know. Really, you know, is no one doing any more QA with new builds, patches? Or I don't know. It is quite funny. You know, very very poor workmanship, I would say. You will also see some like terrible game design by just looking into the windows of buildings. Really, that's one thing you'll notice straight off the bat. I don't think I've seen such a poor attempt at this. If you were to look at a window of a building, and it was on the corner of a building, so you know there was a corner around that corner, you would expect to see the same thing as the front window, but at a different angle. But here in Saints Row Reboot 2022. That's an impossible task. It's something completely different. And it's ugly as hell. It's like just horrendous graphic texture they've put in there. That's so low res. It's like you're better off just putting blinds down or just putting just a flat image. But you've tried to put some weird layered image and it just looks ugly as hell. But I digress. Once you are able to freely move around of your new city of Santo Iso, I think that's the correct way of saying it. Don't shoot me if it is not. You know, once you're in there, you get to cause havoc. And, you know, the grain does start to bring you back down to actually being rather fun to play. Without all the wackiness, I haven't come across some of the wackiness. They've got still somewhere, you know, if you're hijacking a car, you kind of jump through the windscreen because, like, why would you get rid of that? Why would you get rid of that? You know, there are plenty of, like, side missions to do and collectibles. But I have to say, I'm kind of disappointed so far as, you know, as I think they have removed some of the really fun mini games from the originals, like the Insurance Fraud and Mayhem, just to name a few. Really, like I loved playing Insurance Fraud, just walking to a busy intersection and just like pressing the buttons, to keel over and get smashed and get flung in and cause a massive accident and build up the bar. I love doing that, and they've replaced it with riding shotgun. Boring. Yeah, why, and I trying to have a look online, like, of what they were, and I didn't come. It just came up with these ones. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. They've really, really peeled the layers back to make it a bit more basic and not as appealing. The story itself feels rather flat and doesn't make much sense, and the supporting crew characters, they're just junk and not fun. They could have somehow tried to put Johnny Gatton or someone with some charisma or something. It just feels like there's not much charisma, not a great bunch of characters that they've put in. But I do have to say, this is not a terrible game in its current condition, but it's not a great game. But this is actually a decent filler until GTA 6 comes out. If you're bored of playing GTA 5, otherwise GTA 5 is going to be the perfect filler. But if you want something different and new, this is not bad. I stupidly bought this physically literally a month or so back because it was so cheap. I was planning on playing it soon. I was like, all right, I'm going to play that soon. Just to play for it. It'd be a bit of fun. I always like the series. It's a lot of fun to play. But, it turns up on PS Plus. Again, another game where I'm like, I've got the physical. I'm like, I'm planning on playing it. And then it comes out physical. So, you know what? Don't buy any games until you're actually going to play it right there and then. Because I've got a couple I've just bought. I'm like, God, I probably shouldn't have bought this because these are probably going to pop up sooner or later or something like that. And I could have just played it then, really. But, probably got to be quicker. Probably less bothered of platinum them and all that just yet. But but by it turning out on PS Plus, I kind of think this makes it a perfect game for it. It hasn't done well commercially, didn't get a strong Metacritic, though we shouldn't say this is the standard, as the Metacritic isn't the standard, because mostly are dumb and fixed, especially for first-party titles on both ends of the dumb console warring thing. That was around when I was a kid with Sega and Nintendo and Sony. It's just dumb. Why are you doing it? And most of the people talking things are talking a load of rubbish on both ends, really. But we get a game which is just a little bit over 12 months old. It's had some work done to it, and it's got a bit of extra DLC on it, really. So I think it's actually not a bad one. So because it's come a little bit of a way from when it first came out. Because supposedly this wasn't in a good condition when it first came out. Supposedly. The big question is, will this be the last time we see Saints Row game, a new Saints Row? I hope not, but it has to be reevaluated and decided what they want from it. It would be nice to get maybe some remakes of the original two with some updated graphics and controls. I think that will be good. Just because you can play them on Xbox 360, maybe PC, but anywhere else, I think it would be nice because they just keep on doing 3 and 4. Really, all right. What about 1 and 2? Come on, guys, chop, sort yourselves out. But all they have to do is just make the games that are just crazy and wacky. Don't change the mold, but don't feel like you have to outdo the last release. As long as it's compelling, fresh and fun and doesn't feel like a cut and paste, people will be happy, really. That's all you have to do, really. But they've tried to really strip it back and kind of bring it back down to ground, really, because it was crazy. You're walking around with dildos, bashing people and all that stuff. I don't know if you can do that in this one, but I'm assuming you can't. But yeah. But anyway, when you look at its Metacritic, it doesn't have a score for the PS4, On the PS5 version, it sits at a 61. So, yeah, pretty poor for the for Saints Row. I think it must be the lowest scoring Saints Row game. Metacritic must be. I haven't looked into it, but I'm assuming it is. User scores. Wow. Now this is something. PS4 2.3, PS5 2.9. Wow. I was like, Jesus. That's not good. That's not good at all. At all. You know, I can see the 61. I can see the 6 out of 10. Maybe when it first came out, I don't know. But in its current thing, you know, there are a lot of bugs. It is that 6, 7 out of 10. I would give it a benefit and give it a 7 out of 10 because it is actually quite fun when you start playing it. You're like, oh yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's not great, but it's not terrible by any chance, really. It has its issues, but what 6, 7 out of 10 game doesn't have issues, but it can still be fun. Hey? But fun scores, what do? My game score. Well, it has issues, but it's fun. Really. It's ugly, but in some spots, it kind of looks pretty. You know, it's in the middle. So for that, I'm going to go with a thumb in the middle. Really? Because I kind of was nearly tempted. I've got my little thing I've written up, and it says I've kind of put ... 3/4 of a thumb up, but I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can give this a 3/4 thumb up. So I'm going to stick with a thumb in the middle for Saints Row. Now, offering score. Well, you know, just over a year old. Some work has done to it. It's actually quite rather playable now. Playing through it, I've been doing lots of things. I think I've spent about at least 8 hours on this game. So it kind of goes to show it's actually not too bad. You can actually play through it. You know, my friend texts me. He's like, "Oh yeah, 2006 is asking for their game back," and I'm like, "What are you on about?" I haven't played it yet. And I can see what he was meaning. There's some bits, but then I kind of looked at some of the games that came out in 2006, and it was like Bully and stuff like that. I'm like, well, you know, 2006 wasn't a bad year for games. There's some still rather playable games now, but I think that we've got a fairly newish game, 13 months old. You know, I think this is like a decent PS Plus game, really, for people to play. Otherwise, you know, are you going to play the other Saints Rows? Might as well play this one. Pay for nothing outside of your subscription. It's perfect, I think, in a way. So I'm going to go with a 3/4 of a thumb up for my offering score because I feel like it's a good one, really. As I've stated earlier, really, I think it's actually kind of a perfect candidate to give as a PS5 game. Whether it should be our main, because you know technically this is our main game for the month. I'm not too sure. Probably like it should be the middle one, but you know, Saints Row is technically quite a big franchise, so why shouldn't it be the top spot? Even though it's the kind of the bottom of the barrel of the Saints Row. But I think people are going to have fun here, and people are actually going to be surprised. They're going to start playing it. Yeah, they're going to notice issues, and they're going to say, "Oh, this is a bit ugly," and this and that. Maybe it's a bit painful, but it's not bad. It's not bad. It's playable. I am quite enjoying to play the game. But I've kind of stopped it now, and I've kind of gone back to Final Fantasy 16 because I'm trying to get that platinum. I'm doing that Final Fantasy difficulty playthrough. God, I spent a lot of hours on that game. A lot. I kind of want to be done, but I really want the platinum in that game. I really like that game. Anyway, that's it. Last game done. So now we've played through all the games, we've given our scores, we've talked about them, this and that. Let's try condense that and try give an overall score for the month. So we started off with Black Desert, the MMORPG that's just ugly. Ugly. I gave that game score of a quarter of a thumb up and an offering score of a thumb down, a stinky thumb down with a bit of poop on it. Our second title for the month was Generation Zero, one I do own. Something that was released in a bad state, but has come a long way since its release. I gave that game score of a thumb in the middle and an offering score of a 3/4 thumb up. So I feel like it was a good offering. Now, and finally, we had 2022's reboot of this Saints Row franchise. Yeah, kind of falls down the stairs. This one, it's tripped over quite a few rakes and hit itself a few times. What they were trying to do hasn't really gone too well, but it's not terrible. Lots of bugs, lots of questionable work done in this game, but I'm still kind of enjoying myself with it. I gave a game score of a thumb in the middle and an offering score of a 3/4 thumb up. Now, what would we do for overall for the month? What would we say? What would we give? What is the score? Now, well, it's just another. It's technically it's not a great month. It's kind of just been the first title really has soured it. Black Desert did not do any help whatsoever for the month, and the others were just kind of made it just get over a finishing line. It limped over a finishing line. So I think overall for a game score for September, we're going to have to go with a mid score of a thumb in the middle. Yeah, it's just nothing too great, really. It technically probably should have been slightly less because of Black Desert, but I've decided not to be too harsh on it on the month. Well, I probably should, really, because the other two, they're still actually quite enjoyable games that you can have a lot of fun with them. So a thumb in the middle for overall game score is pretty good, I think. Now, overall offering score, Black Desert was a terrible offering for the month. Generation Zero, even though it's a 4-year-old game, I think it's a very good offering because I think people should play it, and they should play it with friends because they will actually enjoy it and actually see it's actually quite a fun game to play. So Saints Row leaves us. It's just over a year old. It's not a great game, but it's not terrible. And I gave it a 3/4 thumb, so I think this just scrapes by to another thumb in the middle as my overall offering score for September. So game score, thumb in the middle, offering score, thumb in the middle. Blow up together. Yeah, another mid-month. Yeah, been a lot of mid-months. There has been. It just kind of just been happening, really. You know, they have something good here, then good there, and then it kind of something brings it down. Really, I think August was mid. What else did we have? What else? What was July? What did I rate July? July, I feel like maybe was slightly better. That was another mid month. Wow, I've got so many mid months. What was June? June was another mid month. All thumb in the middles. And wait, I see if I can quickly snap to May. No, May is not sitting there. That's been moved off the computer. So yeah, we have just been offered tons of mid months. They're not terrible games we're getting, just not great. And it would be some really rubbish stuff mixed in with some good stuff, so it just kind of affects the overall score for the month, which is not good. But I digress. that is the PS Plus plays done. I've played them all, I've scored them all. September is not a downer, but it's not an upper, really. Hopefully October is more up there. Let's put it that way. Anyway, let me know, what games did you like in this lineup for this month? What did you hate? What did you like? What did you think of my thoughts? Do you think I was kind of talking sense with some of it, or was I just babbling? Probably babbling. Anyway, please like and subscribe to the channel. That would be great. And until next time, until I kind of pull my finger out my own butt and get some of the other stuff that I've been wanting to do, I'll see you in the next PS Plus plays, probably, because I'll probably be too lazy getting anything more done. And I'm just doing this to keep myself sane. Alright, take care. Goodbye. Ciao.